always get confused with these two words: compassion, sympathy, and empathy. Can you kind of tell what the differences are? They're all to me very similar. Or
yeah, they're very similar. They did draw some differences. They say that the compassionate person really also has this feeling that they want to remove that suffering.
so there's an action behind
Yeah, there's that.
Did you want either cream or sugar in your coffee?
Both. And make it dilute, put a little water in it or something. I don't like it too strong, it'll kill me. And sympathy, it's more just like feeling with the other person, but not necessarily related to wanting to alleviate it. And empathy is being able to actually put yourself in the other's place and feel as they feel. You can understand their heart, and you actually, it's not just that you're separated and you're feeling, oh, this person is suffering. It's not that. You actually can feel their suffering within you. You can mirror it, as it were. And that's why they have these different types of, that they say some people do that emotionally, some people can do it with empathy. Sometimes it's cognitive, you can understand the person and that makes you be able to put yourself in their place. Or it can actually be from an emotional point of view, where you're feeling with your heart more. Or the somatic empathy, the things where people actually, by touch, they can, if somebody does something to you, I feel it. It's just unusual.
So then of those three, which ones takes more energy? Or which one damages you more as much as damages the person who is going to suffer?
Well, they say that the cognitive one, you can separate yourself from them more, so that you're not feeling the pain so much. Sometimes with emotional, that's like what I described, that Swami that went out and tried to serve and found that he couldn't really because he was just overcome with the emotion and the feeling of the other person. So sometimes you have to stand back from that emotional feeling oneness in order to be able to work.
The sympathy that allows you some...
It's empathetic. They're all of those three things are empathy. You're feeling for the other person, but they're coming from different parts of your personality, of your own personality. And you can separate, by using your reasoning, you can separate yourself from the person enough that you'll be able to function and help them to understand what's the best thing to do and be able to do it. If you get too emotionally involved, what they say is that then it's very difficult, and there are cases where you can see that's really true. It's very hard. If your own emotions get all entangled, and you just, But that story of Swami Vivekananda is a beautiful thing, and there he obviously was feeling the emotion too. And the reason he felt that way is that he had traveled all over India and seen the suffering of the people, and he called it God in the poor, God in the suffering. And that was why he so much emphasized this ideal of service, of worshiping the God in others and trying to serve in whatever way it's needed. Sometimes it's needed in one way, sometimes another way. But just to do that service as a worship. It's not just doing good to other people per se, it's actually doing it as a worship.
I have a question reading it. I don't know if this is a big question, but maybe you can comment on it. A lot of intellectuals have a great faith that the world is rationally explicable, that it can be explained, and that the world is rational, that nature is rational. And I was watching that science popularizer, Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's fun to watch and who's educating. And it occurred to me that how could the world be rationally explicable if man is irrational? Like, if we're part of nature and we're in nature. And I suppose Eastern religions would say that that has something to do with Maya. That would just be a guess. I'm wondering if you would speak to that.
The idea is that within Maya there are laws. As long as we're in time, space, and causation, those are the perimeters of Maya. And usually those are the perimeters of science as well, because they're willing to understand through the sense of what we can perceive and verify through our senses, sense perception. Whereas in Eastern thought, there's taking that step that is beyond that. And that's where real freedom is. It's beyond time, space, and causation, and it no longer is rational or anything else. It's not confined by any of those laws that are there within nature and things.
So it could be called transcendental.
Yes, yes. But Ramakrishna, who I quoted, also people were he had people who had a scientific background come to him, and they said, well, there are certain laws and nothing, can change it. And he said, oh, well, it can be, through the will of the divine, even those laws can be broken. And then he went out and found a branch on which there was a white flower and a red flower growing on the same branch. So Maya can also break her laws, the laws of time, space, and causation within that realm, according to Eastern thought. By praying and things like that, the divine can intervene and break laws, including the karmic laws. We all are bound by our past deeds, and good, bad, and none escape the law is one idea. But whosoever wears a chain whosoever wears the form must wear the chain, and none escape the law. But the Atman, ever free, is far beyond both name and form. So we are bound by our karmas, but you can also be released from it. And I remember Holy Mother saying that through spiritual practice and things, where you might have by your karma been supposed to reap something bad was supposed to happen to you, like maybe you're supposed to lose your arm or something, you'll just get a scratch. If you're sincere in your practicing, so you can change it too. There's a scope in there. And that's where the realm of free will, the idea that there's a choice and that we can affect what happens to us. But according, one place I read in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, it was a wonderful thing. He said, God put the idea of free will, in the Western idea of free will in the mind of man, so that he would do good, so that he could progress within the realm of Maya. But the truth of the matter is that everything is done by the will of the divine, and we really don't have any free will. It's all being done. The Bhagavad Gita says it's done by the gunas, working together, and we're all just working within that thing. We think we're the doer. There's a beautiful song to the Divine Mother where Shakali Tomaricha Icha Mai Taratumi. And anyway, what it says is, everything is done by thy sweet will, O Mother. The whole world says, I am the doer, but you alone are really the doer. So we're all thinking we're the doer, the karta, and as long as we have that feeling, then we have to keep working. We have to keep practicing. We have to do spiritual practices. As long as we're identified with our body and our minds, we have to do those things, because that is the realm where all that works. And it does work. By doing good action, your character becomes good, you become purified, and you can free yourself, or reach a certain level where you'll be able to free yourself. But actually, God is beyond all of that, beyond law. Real freedom is there.
It seems to be a problem with a lot of educated people that stops them from exploring spirituality.
They can't make the jump out of the mind. That's what I found. I've been in conferences where there are physicists and Buddhists and different people. And according to the Vedas, God is beyond speech and mind. Their mind turns back along with speech, is how it is put. And the rational scientist doesn't want to give up that, putting it in here. And as long as we think about it, there's a duality. There's thought. I'm thinking of something out there. And the actual truth is you become one with it. And there's no duality, according to Vedanta. And many others.
Just itself works.
Yes. But it is scary. I mean, even the experience is scary. I mean, there was a wonderful story about Swami Brahmananda where he was begging Ramakrishna to give him a vision. And so then one day he goes into the temple and this wave of light is coming at him, and it's like he got scared because he realized if he was consumed in this wave of light, he would lose his individuality and everything else. It was, was going to engulf him. So he ran out of the temple. So then Ramakrishna found him and he said, "Oh, you've been pestering me so long, and look what happened. It was starting to come, and you ran away." Most of us aren't ready yet. We got to work up to it. Yes.
Something interesting came to mind. This isn't part of the question, but when you were talking about the inability to leave the confines of the mind,
Yes.
to try and rationalize and figure out the way the world works. Are you familiar with that game Marco Polo that kids play in a pool?
No.
Well, you say Marco, and your eyes are closed, and the other person says Polo, and you try to follow the sound of where they are. And if you touch them in the pool, then they lose.
Okay.
There's also another part
Sort
where
of a
they
hide
say
and seek.
fish out of water.
Yeah.
And it's when you're outside the pool and you're running around the outside. So trying to determine how this whole world works is like playing Marco Polo without fish out of water. So you're just limited to wading through the water, trying to figure it all out. But once you hit that barrier, it can no longer be explained.
It can't. You have to take that jump
Yeah.
beyond. And your own mind will make you take it if you get far enough. It's just like if you say you lie down and you look at the sky and you start just meditating on the infinite space. That can make you really feel like you're losing your body awareness, or you're going to fall up, you're going to fall into the sky, you're going to become one with, all those things are telling you that it's beyond. And meditation, of course, you do that as well, or entering into light, that it's bigger and it's beyond any thought, but it's an experience. It's what they call anubhava. It's an experience. It has to be an experience. You can't talk about it because it's different. Immediate knowledge and immediate knowledge are different.
Yeah.
So you have to experience it.
My question was, I had this experience where you were talking in there earlier about feeling the physical sensations.
Yes.
It was like that, except I felt the suffering of humanity and the soul's belief that it's lost. That sort of like forgotten thorn in the soul's foot, and that we've tried to cover up with activities and worldly pursuits and even spiritual practices.
Yes.
That we try to cover up that we forgot who and what we are and why we're here.
That's it.
And I felt that on a grand scale, and it was not very fun.
No.
And I'll still feel it, and I feel it within myself too.
But it's a calling.
Hmm.
Don't you see it as a calling?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because that's special vision that's been given you for you to use. Yeah. It's a blessing.
It just raises an interesting kind of paradox of this experience that comes that seems to be beyond thought, beyond memory, beyond all that stuff.
Yeah.
But then it becomes a memory. So or say that happens and you said for you to use it. Sometimes we just associate it with it was a past experience. How do we bring that into a living
Keep meditating.
Yeah.
Keep meditating until it becomes a living reality for you. That wonderful quotation is Swami Ashokananda, where he says, the mind becomes calm and it becomes serene and it becomes subtle, and you begin to see that yes, everything is God. It's a stage in your spiritual practice. Yes.
Just trying to work with this idea that the minute there is a thought in the mind, it is a memory.
Well,
even if it's a nanosecond, because it's that far removed from, quote, the reality.
Yep.
From reality or now.
Well, who is thinking the thought?
Well, right.
Who is thinking the thought?
Exactly.
Keep stepping back, because the thought is only memories. I mean, we have these pigeonholes and we try to stick everything in there. Oh, this one looks like this one, and blah, 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 all the thoughts. And they go in there. The minute we perceive something, we try to pigeonhole it and put it in our knowledge bank. But something is thinking that thought. Something is behind that. Some consciousness is behind thinking. So try to search for that.
Well, and that's kind of, to me, to be right in the moment is when there is no one there. And then when it becomes a memory or a thought of that experience.
Then it becomes time orientated.
Then it steps into duality.
Yeah.
There is no one there.
Yeah, if you can really be in the moment,
yes,
that's true, because it's beyond time, and it is beyond causation, but it also is beyond mind,
yes.
And it is the one who is thinking the thought. Who is thinking the thought? You can go that route. Keep going back and trying to always see who is feeling that. Because there's always something behind. And that's the witness, the Sakshi. And that's very close. That's the Turiya state. There's a state that is beyond all these other states, waking, dream, and dreamless sleep, according to the Mandukya Upanishad, which you can study if you wish.
But beyond seems like a key word there.
Well, it always is, because you have to get out of the mind. I mean, we keep identifying with it, and you're right. As soon as we've got it in a thought, one time Swami Vivekananda said, as long as we're in the mind, we're a dualist. We can't help it, because I'm thinking something, and there's something else. Even if you're trying to meditate on a formless reality and all these things, you've got a subject and an object. As long as you are meditating, there's two. And it's not until it becomes one. That's what Anubhava is. Then there's no meditator. There's nothing being meditated on. There only is.
And then do you remember that?
Yes.
You wouldn't even know it, would you?
No, well, not in the normal sense.
Yeah.
But people
Something.
have had that experience and been able to retain something of the
It becomes a memory.
well or something.
I have a question or kind of a comment. What you were just speaking of, being able to have that state and the recall of the memory, is almost as though it is those things that you need to recall, it's almost innately comes up. Because and a person's memory, even if they had seen themselves as very forgetful and not being able to recall things, if they can find that state, then the recall, when needed, comes almost automatically. Is that true? Because everything is so clear.
Yes, I mean the recall of your past and everything that's happened. Yes, I think that comes with this. You have a clarity of mind that comes. Yes, I think that's true. But the farther you can step back and be the witness, the more clear you will see things, yourself and everything around you. Because it's really one thing. That's what I was trying to say today.
myself, because of my obsessions, I think those qualities were not developed the way they should have when I was a child. So, are there any ways we can reverse the process?
Well, there are forms of meditation that can do that, which you can get if you talk to somebody who's a guru. They can give you some of those meditation techniques. But there also is the idea that as I am, so are they. So when you have suffered, it actually is expanding your heart, and you can understand another's suffering more easily. And if you try to look at how you feel and how you have felt and be able to identify with another's pain and suffering, that helps a lot. And this idea of the mother thing, I never thought I would be feeling like I was a mother for everybody, but it's coming on me. And it's like that. It's like that. I mean, it's like a love, and it's not like putting yourself above anybody or anything else. It's just this sort of universal kind of caring and nurturing toward everybody. And I remember once Sarvapriyananda saying, yes, you always have to feel like a mother, but you shouldn't tell people that you're feeling that way, that you're feeling like they're children and you're wanting to help. You know, you shouldn't go around telling people that. But I remember one of the senior monks in our order once said every monk should be a mother. But I take it farther than that, and I think in Buddhism they do too. They say everyone has been your mother. So you are a mother. I mean, in one sense, we are all related, so we all can have developed that type of love for other people. Like, a child does things and you don't blame, you see it, but you don't, think they're wrong. You want to, it's kind of a play almost. You don't have to get caught up in it. You can stand back from it. And a lot of it is just what's in our mind. We go over and over things in our mind and we suffer because of that. We're like stabbing ourselves, with these thoughts of past and things that have happened. They're not happening now, and we can escape from that, by thinking positive thoughts and trying to be in the present more. But I think that develops your compassion as well, and to look at your own suffering and what you have experienced and use that to feel for other people, because you are like other people. There's a wonderful story of Buddha where a woman had lost her son, and she was in terrible grief, and she went to Buddha and asked for help. And he said, all right, mother, I will help you, but first go to the different houses and bring me some mustard seed from the house where there has been no death. So she went out, and everywhere she went, she realized that someone had lost somebody. Someone had died. Every person had experienced this. A father had died, or a child had died. Somewhere there had been death. And so she realized finally that this was a universal experience. And she went back to Buddha, and she became a nun. But it was the understanding that everyone is experiencing these same things that you are experiencing. To know that will help your heart. Yes?
In regards to this question, your answer when you said that it's a calling, can you expand on that? Is it like that you're talking about personal calling?
I just said that to him.
When regarding
That particular thing that he's experienced.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. If someone feels the same way, and you said too, that it's a calling.
I think we're given things according to our capacity, and that we should use those. They are for our enlightenment, but they're also for the good of mankind. If you're given a viewpoint of the suffering of mankind, you were ready to see that, and you would probably feel that there's a reason why you saw that, and feel impelled to try to alleviate that if you can. It's a blessing when you get any kind of vision. I mean, you may have a different type of vision, totally, beauty all around you, or light, or bliss. I mean, people have all different kinds of experiences, but every one of those experiences is a gift, and it's for your growth. It's for your own personal growth, and you have to incorporate that into your being and make the best use you can of it, because it is a gift.
I'm trying to explain this right. When I meditate on this oneness and the no separation, I get this really intense feeling of fear.
Okay, we were just talking about this. I somehow knew this was going to be it.
Yeah, and I get plagued by this fear of death.
Yes. That's
I don't
perfect.
know how to transform it.
That's perfectly natural.
Okay.
And what it is that your ego doesn't want to die.
Yeah.
And it's actually true that if you have a spiritual experience, there is a moment when you have to be able to give up your ego and let it die, and know that you're immortal. It's not you. It's not you. You're not going to die. But you have to be able to let go of that thing that is blocking you, and it's not easy. And most people feel some kind of fear, because we have a clinging to life that is intense, and we've come with it, and we go on hanging on to it, and by life I mean littleness and body awareness. And the body will die, but you're not going to die. You're not the body. That's the whole point of the thing, is that you're not that. And you have to be able to rise above it, and you can. But there is that fear. But I suggest that you go to someone, I don't know, you say you were meditating, so if you have a meditation teacher, I would ask that person that question, because that is very common. You're not going wrong, or something. It's very common, but it can be overcome, and you have to pass through that. You won't die. You're immortal. Yes.
I've heard that sometimes, just what you were saying just kind of woke this up in me, that sometimes that change, that quote, death of the ego is just something that is being let go of, that is no longer of service, no longer has any real relevance, but because, I'm so used to living my life with a certain idea of who I am, and holding on, and it's not even serving anymore.
There's lots of things that we identify ourselves with that aren't necessary, because we're really not that. But we go on doing that. I mean, your whole past, you can remember when you were a child, but you're not that child anymore. But you can remember all those things, and you've grown and changed. But now you're identifying yourself with something also. And if you look closely, the introspection is a very good thing. You can look at what you're hanging on to, what your aversions and your attractions are, because those are the things that are binding us. And most of us go through our lives, I want this, I don't want that. That's how we go through our lives. And if we can try to stand back from things, try to be the witness, it helps a lot to get rid of all those clinging. Swamiji said it was a grasping nature. I know, sometimes I go on the beach and I see a beautiful shell, and I want to pick it up and take it home, and I'm going oh dear, you're doing it again, you want to possess it. Beauty. There's a beautiful poem by Blake, I think it was, where he says, "He who kisses the joy as it flies lives in eternity's sunrise." So it's if you hold it, does its winged life destroy? If you try to hold it, you destroy it. You've got to let it go. Let it all go. And be in the present moment. And all those little ways that you're identifying yourself with this body, this mind, this past, this potential future, all those things, they're not real.
And it can feel like a death. It can feel like a death.
Yeah, that can, but this is also something a little different.
Yeah, that feels like life.
Yeah. It's actual freedom.
Freedom.
But if that light starts to engulf you and you feel like you're going to be completely overcome, it is scary. And there's many instances that can be listed of great people who have had that, Swami Vivekananda himself, when Ramakrishna first touched him and started to send him into samadhi, everything began to whirl around. He said, I have a father and mother. And Swamiji said, oop, not ready yet.
I had an interesting experience. I had several, just kind of related to all this. I had about a year and a half or 2 years where I was very suicidal. That thought of wanting to die was there constantly, but I was also meditating and doing spiritual practices, so I didn't understand. I'm like, I thought this was supposed to make me better.
Yeah.
And then I remember there was one day I was in a meditation and that was coming up again, and the words, kill yourself and see what remains, is what came up. And then all of a sudden I got it.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, something wants to die, but it's not me.
Yeah. That's like Ramana Maharshi. Who am I? Who am I? And finally, he was only about 12 years old, I think, had an experience where he pretended like he was dead. He lay on the ground, and he pretended like he was dead, and he had an experience. He just kept going back, I'm dead, I can't move, this is the death of the body. And he had such a deep experience that it never left him again, that he knew who he was, in essence. Most of us, we get little glimpses now and again. We keep coming back to the idea, I'm the body, I'm the mind. And we're trained that way. When you're a little boy, or you're a little girl, or you're fat, or you're thin, or you're blonde, or you're brunette. All these things that we're trained to identify ourselves with the body. And then we go on to, I'm a doctor, I'm a, teacher, I do this, I do that, I'm a nun. All those things, they're not real. That's we're identifying ourselves with what we do, but none of that is who you really are. Yes.
I understand why my father used to threaten me with the threat of, if you don't behave, I'll put your head between your ears.
I'll put your what?
Your head between your ears.
Oh. It'd be good if you But that's interesting. You had an interesting father.
He was a born-again Christian priest working for Bishop Tutu.
It made you think, didn't it? What does it mean? Makes me think. What did he mean? Another blessing.
I'm wondering if you could speak to your decision as a Westerner to join a sectarian spiritual path. I remember listening to Joseph Campbell talk about, in his life, as he studied comparative religion.
And he also knew about Vedanta.
Yeah, he was very
yeah.
interested. He talked about, he thought that to go deeper in the spiritual life, he would have had to have chose a path. And I've heard other people say that, Buddhists or Christians, that by choosing a path, it allowed them to go deeper. But as a Westerner, we're, I guess, highly individualized.
Yes.
And so maybe it's possible that as being more individualized, there's the potential to go deeper into collectivity. I was just wondering if you could speak to your decision for that and what your experience of it is.
Well, the way you just ended that, I think it's true, and I think that's one of the wonderful things about Vedanta is that the harmony of religions and the fact that all paths are going to. The ancient Vedas actually said those things, and those truths are very simple and very all-encompassing, and I think that should and does appeal to the Western mind, because we do have a different view that is much more of a global view. I mean, we can't help it. We've got the internet, we've got everything. We can go here and there. I mean, everything really is a little bit different now than it used to be. If you're speaking to me individually, it didn't happen on an intellectual level at all. What happened to me was I was studying philosophy and I was reading all kinds of things, and I was interested, sure, in Zen and different things. And I was studying that, and I was a spiritual seeker, I would say. But what happened to me was that I met my teacher, I saw him, and tears just came, and I just felt like, this is what I was looking for. This person has realized something, and that means I can too. And that's what happened to me, and that was it. But that was my thing. It was more like almost a conversion or something. I mean, I don't know. It just was kind of sudden. In fact, I took my sister to see him because he used to walk around and people used to follow him. He's no longer living, but anyway. And she hid behind a tree. And I said to her, why did you do that? She said, I saw what happened to you, and I'm not ready. I'm not ready yet. I mean, she knew she had the potential, but she hid. So, okay, you have to be ready. You have to be ready to allow it to come to you. They say the Atman chooses who it will, but you have to choose it too. You have to be ready to say, yes, go ahead, engulf me. Yes.
Mine is not a question. If there isn't any other question, I'd like to make a request. My husband has been diagnosed with sarcoma cancer just recently. If you and together we could offer healing.
All right. Let's all just sit and concentrate on that. We could do the chant that we did at the end. That is for the well-being of all beings. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. So if that's all, we can adjourn. Thank you all for coming. It's such a beautiful day. Go out and enjoy it all. Nature in her glory is worshiping God, worshiping herself.